Yes, we are going to continue because most of the students have joined. Just now we have seen that there are applications of HSAB concept where we have come to conclusion that HSAB concept helps to determine the stability of the complexes formed between a soft acid soft base and hard acid hard base. So soft hard interaction that leads to the unstable product. Secondly, we have seen that HSAB concept also helps in predicting the nature of bonding, that is when a metal atom forms a complex with a embedded ligand. The type of linkage between a particular metal atom and the ligand that depends upon the nature of the metal atom that is involved. If metal atom is soft, it will prefer to coordinate with soft atom from the ligand, and if the metal atom, if it is hard, as in case of cobalt complex, cobalt being a hard acid, it prefers to coordinate with a soft, with a harder base such as nitrogen from isothiocyanate ligand. So this is how we have seen the first two applications. We are moving towards the third application, which is very important, known as a symbiosis. The HSAP concept that also helps in determining the stability, that is known as the symbiosis. What is this symbiosis? If a hard acid is there, a soft acid is there, a hard base is there, a soft base is there. So, if a combination of the mixture of soft and hard acids and bases are involved, then in this combination, hard acid prefers to combine with only hard base, and soft acid prefers to combine with a softer base. This particular combination, where from the mixture hard acid chooses the hard base so as to lead a stable complex. Similarly, a softer base, softer acid prefers, I am using a word prefer, that means he likes, that is soft acid likes, or it is having the attraction towards a softer base, and under such circumstances the complex is stable, and this particular phenomena is known as the symbiosis. So the choosing of right option by a hard acid with a hard base, or soft acid with a soft base, which leads always to a stable product, this phenomenon is known as the symbiosis. I would like to give you one example of boron trifluoride in this context. This is a BF3, boron trifluoride, which is regarded as a hard acid. When it combines with fluoride ion so as to form a new product as a BF4 minus, this fluoride ion is regarded as a hard base. So there is always interaction between a hard acid and a hard base that leads to a stable product such as boron tetrafluoride anion. In this fashion, if I would like to give another example of boron trihydride, which is a soft acid, combines with a softer base, that is hydrogen anion. This is soft base that leads to a stable product as a BH4 minus, which is a stable. Why it is stable? Because soft acid combined with a soft base so as to form a stable product. So these are tendencies of choosing a right option so as to form a stable complex is known as the symbiosis phenomena. So if we take for instance the mixture of boron trifluoride with hydrogen and mixture of boron trihydride with fluorine, Here, this is a combination of all hard and soft acids and bases. So, in this combination, this boron trifluoride prefers to combine with fluorine because boron trifluoride is a hard acid, prefers to combine with a harder base such as fluoride ion so as to form BF4 minus. Similarly, boron trihydride is a soft acid, prefers to form or prefers to combine with a softer base, that is H minus, so as to form BH4 minus. So the products thus obtained are extremely stable because a hard interaction and a soft interaction that leads to a stable product. So these particular tendencies of the fluoride ion and the hydride ion so as to form a stable product, these tendencies are known as the symbiotic phenomena or symbiosis. So this particular symbiosis phenomena can very well explained with the help of this HSAB concept. Now, the fourth important application, that is the occurrence of metals in nature. We know that there are large number of metals they do occur in nature. For example, iron always exists in the form of its oxide, or magnesium in the form of carbonate MgCO3, calcium in the form of its carbonate as CaCO3, aluminium is always in the form of its oxide, that is Al2O3, that is alumina. So these metals they choose the non-metallic stuff that is present in the atmosphere. While choosing the non-metallic stuff from the atmosphere or from the nature, there is again HSAB concept come into play. We know that the occurrence of metals in nature and their ores can be explained with the help of this HSAB concept. The example of magnesium carbonate, calcium carbonate, and aluminum oxide, what we call as a alumina. All these, either magnesium, calcium, or aluminum, they occur in the form of their either carbonates or in the form of oxides. Aluminum does not combine with atmospheric carbon dioxide to get oxidized, and it can form aluminum carbonate. So the case is not true. Or magnesium does not occur in the form of MgO2 or MgO or CaO. Calcium does not occur in the form, that is in the ore form as calcium oxide. The reason for this is that magnesium, according to HSAB concept, is a hard acid. It always prefers to combine with a harder base from atmosphere, that is carbon dioxide, which get oxidized so as to form CO3. So hard interactions are there, hence magnesium always occurs in the form of its carbonate. Same is true for this calcium carbonate. Calcium is a hard acid. It combines with a harder base from nature so as to form a calcium carbonate, which is a stable. Aluminium oxide Al2O3. Here, aluminium is regarded as a hard acid. It combines with oxygen, which is regarded as a hard base, which can form Al2O3. So these are the ores that is obtained by the combination of hard acids, namely magnesium, calcium, and aluminium ions with hard bases such as carbonate or the oxygen from the nature. Magnesium, calcium, or aluminum, which are present in nature or in atmosphere in the form of their carbonates and oxide, and not as their and not as their sulfides. Why? Magnesium does not occur in the form of MgS, CaS or Al2S3. This does not exist. Why? Because magnesium, as we have seen, it is a hard acid. Sulfur is a soft base. Calcium is a hard acid. Sulfur is a soft base. Aluminum is a hard acid and sulfur is a soft base. So in all these cases, sulfur atom from the atmosphere that behaves as a soft base. So according to HSAB concept, these combinations are not allowed. Hard soft combinations are not allowed, and hence magnesium, calcium or aluminum, they do not occur as their sulfides, but they do occur in the form of their carbonates or oxides, because hard interactions that always leads to a stable product. So this is again one of the outcome or the application of the HSAB concept. One more general application of HSAB concept is there, that is fifth application, which is a general application. The general applications, as we are aware that the large number of chemical aspects have been interpreted with the help of the HSAB concept, just now we have seen. Another general application of HSAB concept is that the catalytic power of certain metals that may be accounted based on the fact that soft metal atoms will easily adsorb soft bases on their metallic surface. So in some reactions, if a metal atom that is present as a catalyst or that act as a catalyst, that can preferentially adsorb, adsorption is a surface phenomena that preferentially adsorb a soft base during the combination of reactions. So the catalyst or catalytic power that can be accounted on the basis of this HSAB concept. The second is that certain solubilities may be solubilities of certain salts may also be understood from the fact that hard solvents will prefer to dissolve hard solids and soft solvents dissolve soft solids. For example, mercury hydroxide dissolves in acidified aqueous solution, but HGS does not. That means mercury hydroxide dissolves in acidified acidified solution. That means if water is taken to which few drops of acid if it is added, this is known as a acidified aqueous solution in which mercury can easily dissolve. But mercury sulfide does not dissolve because mercury is a hard acid and sulfur is a soft base, so it is not allowed. Now these are the 5 different applications that we have studied. The first application is nothing but it is a HSAB concept is used to determine the stability of the complexes. Secondly, we have seen this HSAB concept that is used so as to predict the nature of bonding in ambidentate ligands. Thirdly, we have seen how HSAB concept that is applicable for the phenomena that is known as the symbiosis. Fourth application just now we have studied is the occurrence of metal in nature. Certain metals they do occur in nature and in the form of their carbonates and oxides strictly depending upon the HSAB concept. And lastly, we have seen certain general applications of this HSAB concept. So these are the general application. These are the applications of HSAB concept. Now, the concept that we have studied known as HSAB, it has certain drawbacks or limitations. HSAB concept has certain tricky drawbacks. For example, the prime limitation of HSAB concept is that it is usually in general, because if we consider fluoride and hydroxyl, both are the soft bases, but here in this case hydroxyl ion is 10 raised to 13 times more stronger than fluoride, even though both are belonging to the same. Secondly, the inherent acid base strengths, inherent means those are hidden. The inherent acid base strength are not accounted. Thirdly, the theory fails to determine the relative strength of acids and bases. Relative means average strength. So, certain acids, if are present, which acid is more stronger or which base is more stronger, this particular fact is not explained by HSAB concept. So, this is one of the important drawback. Again, we have seen that in case of HSAB concept, hard and soft interactions, that also always leads to a stable product. But there are certain reactions. For example, the reaction between HF, hydrofluoric acid, and SO3 2 minus. Here HF is a hard acid and SO3 2 minus sulfide ion is a soft base. This combination is also possible. HF is a hard acid, and SO3 is a soft base. This also leads to a stable product. So this particular fact is not explained by HSAB concept. This particular reaction that leads to HSO3 minus plus F minus. So this product HSO3 minus, that is formed on account of hard acid and soft base, which is also stable. So this particular fact is also not explained by HSAB concept. So this is how we have completed the first part of acids bases from this topic. We are going to move to the next aspect of this topic. I am going to start only with some introductory part of this topic, that is a non-aqueous solvents. The part that we are going to cover is known as a non-aqueous solvents. We know that the number of chemical reactions and many measurements of the properties are carried out in a solvent. So, a solvent plays a very important role in chemical reaction. Without a solvent, chemical reactions are rather next to impossible. Solvent is a medium in which the solute is dissolved to form a final solution. The substance which is present in smaller proportion is known as a solute, and the substance which is comparatively in larger proportion or in larger quantities is known as the solvent. For example, NaCl, if it is dissolved in water, NaCl is a solute and water is a solvent. The quantity of NaCl is less and the quantity of water is large, and hence water is a solvent and NaCl is a solute. Now, water is an universal solvent, that is known as aqueous solvent. Many reactions are carried out in a mixture of water and another solvent. These solvent mixtures are also called the aqueous solvents. For example, dilute HCl, it is prepared always in water. Acetic acid is also prepared in water. The solvent except water may be termed as non-aqueous. So the word non-aqueous refers to those solvents which are absence of water, or the solvent without water is known as the non-aqueous solvents. For example, the best known examples of non-aqueous solvents are nothing but liquid ammonia or liquor ammonia, liquid sulfur dioxide, chloroform CHCl3, benzene, C6H6, acetonitrile, etc. The solvent that we are referred as a non-aqueous solvent, it has certain general characteristic features. So if it is a really a non-aqueous solvent, then the solvent should possess certain characteristic features that I am explaining here. The general characteristics which are exhibited by non-aqueous solvents, these solvents are very easily available. The second characteristic feature is that these solvents are very easy to purify. Suppose, for example, if by some instant, if an impurity that is present in non-aqueous solvent, we can easily remove that impurity. So it is very easy to purify. Third characteristic is that these non-aqueous solvents have wide liquid range. Fourth is that these solvents, that is non-aqueous solvents, they always undergo autoionization, that means self-ionization takes place. The fifth, these solvents are less viscous. Less viscous means, perhaps you might be knowing, you have performed one experiment at your BSc1 level where you have used the CCl4 water and such mixtures while carrying out this particular experiment. It is seen that the solvent which is less viscous that pass through this viscometer very easily. So these are less viscous, so they pass through the viscometer very easily. But if viscous solvent is there, for example, oil, if we take for instance oil, then oil is more viscous. It will take some more time to pass through the fine capillary of viscometer. So the meaning of this sentence is that non-aqueous solvents are less viscous. They pass through the viscometer very easily. Thirdly, very important that these non-aqueous solvents are non-toxic. One more general characteristic is there. These non-aqueous solvents are able to dissolve in large number of solutes. That means this is very important characteristic feature that large number of solutes can easily be dissolved in these non-aqueous solvents. Water is the only solvent to show all these properties, but the large number of solids are dissolved in it. Now, certain characteristic features which I would like to mention. Again, here it is showing only 10 minutes are left. So I have to conclude this session within 10 minutes. It is seen that the certain characteristic features which are associated with these non-aqueous solvents that I would like to enlist here. First is the melting points, boiling points, and liquid range of all these non-aqueous solvents. The temperature range between the melting points and the boiling points of the solvent is known as its liquid range. So liquid range is nothing but the temperature range which is falling in between boiling point and melting point is known as liquid range. As the reactions are carried out in liquid phase in different solvent systems at atmospheric pressure, the liquid range of all these solvents determines its usefulness. Second, the polarity and association of molecules and solvation. What is this polarity and association of molecules and the solvation? Polarity is said to be developed in polar molecule due to some separation of positive and negative charges. What is a polarity? For example, take for instance the example of sodium chloride. Sodium carries a positive charge, chlorine carries a negative charge. So existence of two different poles, one is a positive pole, another is a negative pole, or a positive charge and negative charge that leads to a polarity. The molecules of polar liquids have tendency to orient themselves in such a way that positive end of molecule are near the negative pole of the surrounding molecules. This facts leads to the association of solvent molecules. Examples of polar molecules showing this particular association are ammonia, water, HF, etc. The addition of solvent molecules to ionic lattice is known as solvation. The solvating tendencies of polar compounds may also be served to rupture the covalent bonds. For example, dissolution of NaCl in water. Just now I have told you that Na carries a positive charge, Cl carries a negative charge. When NaCl is added to water, sodium ions carries a positive charge, so sodium ions are attracted towards the oxygen from water molecule, and chloride ions being negatively charged, those are attracted towards the hydrogen ions from water molecules. So these ions are attracted towards the opposite poles is known as a solvation. So because when the solvation energy is greater than this, then sodium chloride that easily gets dissolved. One important characteristic feature that I would like to mention here again is a dipole moment and dielectric constant of solvent. So dipole moment and dielectric constant, that is a very important property associated with all these solvents. The molecules with separation between the positive and negative ends possess the resultant dipole moment, which is expressed conveniently in debye units, which is abbreviated as a capital D, which is nothing but 1 debye unit is nothing but 3.33 into 10 raised to minus 30 meters. This is known as a 1 debye. Another property that denotes the solvating ability of solvent is its dielectric constant, which is nothing but a, a dielectric constant of a solvent is defined as its capacity to weaken the force of attraction between the electrical charge of positive and negative ions suspended in that particular solvent is known as the dielectric constant. So it is a property of the liquid to get dissolved the solute in short. So this is how the properties those are related to all these solvents. So I am going to conclude this session today here. Tomorrow we are going to study the different types or the classification of these solvents, how the solvents, non-aqueous solvents, are classified into 4 different classes, and then we are having 2 different seminars. So we can perhaps I may finish this topic tomorrow. Let us see if time permits, then I will definitely finish. Otherwise, we have to move for the next week. So today I am going to conclude. Thank you very much.